If I had to toss out every single group leadership skill I have ever learned and keep just one for generating great discussion in groups, I would keep good questions as my main tool. So let's take a look at this skill. I'm Alex Lyon, and Communication Coach is here to help you increase your impact and lead your teams with more excellence. I'm here to help you become a better leader, to help draw out the best in the people that you lead. Today we're talking about how to lead groups in discussions. A lot of people are not great discussion leaders because they like to talk a lot themselves. In fact, you've probably experienced this where the leader talks a lot and there's not a ton of room for other people to jump into the discussion, and it feels a little out of balance. The number one best skill to draw out people and generate a dynamic conversation is asking good questions. So what does a good question look like? First of all, a good question is simple. That means asking one question at a time that's really clear. You don't want to load up with multi-part questions. It can be very confusing. They're not sure where to jump in. So you ask a good, simple, clean question. Second part is that you want to make sure that question is open-ended. So it starts with a how, what, why. That's a question that will force people to add some detail and open up a little bit. If you ask a closed question, a yes or no question, an either or question, a multiple choice style question where they just pick alternatives, it's not going to generate a lot of dynamic conversation. People might answer and then it'll just die. So you have to ask an open-ended question. And the third tip is once you ask a good simple question that's open-ended, you have to wait 8 to 10 seconds. This can feel like an eternity. It can feel like I must have said something wrong because nobody is responding. But when you're thinking of an answer to say, when you're thinking of a way as a participant to jump in, 8 to 10 seconds does not feel that long. So you have to give people time to think and formulate their thoughts. It's tempting, by the way, in that pause of 8 to 10 seconds to jump in too quickly. So if you just wait, almost always someone will step up and begin the discussion. Sometimes, however, after 8 to 10 seconds, you may have to repeat the question and wait again. You can say, so let me just ask it one more time while you're thinking. And then just repeat the question, and that'll give people another chance. A couple of add-on tips to these three, however, are this. You may want to ask people to write down their thought, just a bullet point thought before they participate. So you might ask your question and say, I want you to take a few moments and jot down your thought on this. And then after 10 or 20 or maybe 30 seconds, then you begin the discussion. Sometimes that'll draw out the more introverted group members and get the conversation rolling. Another add-on tip I would say is to ask your question, but do so by giving them something first to respond to. Maybe you read a little quote from a book and then ask them the question. You show them an image that's on an overhead or this PowerPoint, and then ask them to respond. So a stimulus is sometimes one of the other good ways to get them to discuss something. You give them a stimulus and then they respond, and you ask them the question to get them there. So those are some tips on how to ask good questions in groups. Facilitating a group discussion is an excellent leadership skill. No matter where you are in your organization, it'll come in really handy, and you'll position yourself as a skilled leader who's there to bring out the best in the people around them. Question of the day, what are your tips for generating great discussions in groups? Maybe it's asking good questions, but maybe you have other ideas about how to get that conversational ball rolling. I would love to hear your comments below. So thanks, God bless, and I hope you get to use the tips in this video at your very next team meeting.